Greetings and welcome to the Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. I'm Phyllis Hollis, your host. As an extension of my Instagram page, Cerebral Women, this podcast offers insights into the visual art world. I interview artists, mainly artists of color and female artists who will freely articulate what inspires their creativity. In addition, you'll hear interesting perspectives from dedicated art professionals who work with artists and the art institutions that feature them. I'm confident that collectively, these individuals will indeed stimulate your mind as they do our eyes. Please know these interviews are conducted in my Manhattan apartment, so please forgive the background sounds of city life. Welcome to the Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. In this episode of the Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast, I feature Guyanese-American multimedia artist Theresa Chromati. Her practice includes painting, digital collage, sculpture, and installation. She has garnered critical and institutional attention for figurative paintings that are shaped by fragmented forms of desire and constant motion. Bursts of complex color, sensuous protrusions, and texture deploy abstraction to explore various contemporary realities of Black women. These bodies are at once imaginative, bordering on grotesque, and celebratory as they convey a variety of emotional and spiritual states of being. Theresa was born and raised in Baltimore and attended the Pratt Institute and is now based in New York City. Recently, her work has been on view at the Baltimore Museum of Art, the Pérez Art Museum Miami, the Moscow Museum of Modern Art, and she has been featured in the New York Times, Interview Magazine, Juxtapoz, and Vogue. Enjoy this episode of the Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast, and please welcome Theresa Chromati. Welcome, Theresa, to my Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. It's great to have you.
Yes, it's nice to be here. I'm really looking forward to where we go with the conversation.
Great. Let's get started. Well, I want to know, when did you realize that you had this artistic passion?
You know, it's a crazy, I want to stop using the word crazy. It just is what it is. But I knew since I could remember. I was 5, and I took, some time off from working creatively as far as, hand to surface in that way. But when I was 5, my mom put me in a class at the Maryland Institute. And I had this teacher there named Miss Rastegar. And since then, every year in school in my art classes, I was just like always, that was my favorite subject. And everyone would just be like, could you draw mine? Could you draw mine? And the teacher would be like, no, Theresa, you have to just do your own. And then eventually I transferred to this charter school, which was actually across the street from MICA in Baltimore, Midtown Academy. In 4th grade, I went into the school and I realized that Miss Rastegar was the art teacher there. And so it was like this full circle moment. And I was like, I met you when I was 5 and now I'm like 8. And she really nurtured me and, provided me with opportunities to scholarships to take private classes on weekends at the Institute. And my mom put me in some private lessons with this woman named Joy of Art. And I would go there every Sunday. Maybe I was about 10, and it was so boring. But I would stay with her in her studio, which literally had like no natural light. It was like pitch black. And I would like sit with her for 3 hours, just like drawing from observation. And then, I pretty much I was also doing music at the time. And long story short, I ended up going to performing arts high school. I didn't get accepted for visual art. I got accepted for music. And I was just like, okay, well, I must not be that great at that. And then around my senior year, I was over classical music. And I was just like, I have to go back to what I really feel the strongest connection to. and then it started all over again, and we're here.
Wow, that's great. What instrument did you play?
Yeah, I was playing clarinet, B flat clarinet. So, and now music is finding its way back into my practice, and I just want to literally just continue to bring all these aspects of my life to the forefront now.
That's great. So are you playing the clarinet now? Are you practicing? And
no, it's an emotional. I am in the space now where I'm starting to entertain the thought of getting a clarinet again, but I definitely had to just let it go. So with each show, I have soundscapes. And so writing is also like a really important aspect of my practice. Like the titles are, the paintings are super intricate and cryptic, and the titles just really provide a deeper dive into my mind, into the viewer's mind, into the larger conversation. And so that title making and words in general make its way into the soundscapes that me and my collaborator work on. And it's super ethereal and super cosmic. Sometimes they last from like 3 to 10 minutes, but there's a lot of dialogue. Sometimes my mother will write something and her voice will be recorded and woven throughout. For my last show, I was just really thinking about duality and the layers of women, which honestly, I'm always thinking about that. But so like the idea was that, laughter in proximity to rage and yelling. So within the soundscape, there are a lot of actual sounds coming out of my body that mimicked that thought process that you would see in the actual paintings.
Interesting. Do you consider yourself an abstract artist?
I consider myself to be working in figurative abstraction.
And when you were young, were there any particular artists that influenced you?
I mean, I was aware of various artists when I was young. I mean, growing up in my elementary, middle school, my teacher set us at all these different tables that had artists' names. So, one of us were at the Romare Bearden table or the Frida Kahlo table. So it was a great way to just like have access to even knowing who certain people were at like an early age. But yeah, there's a lot of people that I do love, and I'm sure that seeps in. But as far as where I am today, I really prioritize my compositions with starting and ending with myself and finding power and literally deciphering my own mind, because there's a lot happening there.
So do you have any childhood memories? Are they reflected in your work?
Definitely a lot of childhood memories. And the thing about, I think, me personally, it's not a start. It doesn't stop or end in one particular way. And I just really feel like the process, I just become, you start a composition, and where I am right now, I am exploring a lot of different motions as I'm painting, but there are certain things that always pop in the composition. Like movement is always important, that we constantly are moving forward, even within moments of stillness. The scrotum flower, which is this motif that pops up within the compositions, really represents power and balance for the central figure in the work, and her relationship to the idea of power and her proximity to it definitely changes with each composition. And there are just these key things that I have to have in the work. And I wouldn't say it's childhood memories or something that just happened yesterday. I don't have the ability to like stop my mind in that way where I'm like, oh, it's this particular thing and this is making it into the work. It's all collective. It's all the things that built me up to this space now where I'm talking about movement, where I'm talking about accessing power, the strength and the exhaustion of moving forward and picking yourself up and continuing to move on. So clearly, yeah, there's moments of my childhood where those things started to connect, right, and year after year. So it's all a continuous thing.
So would you say there are concepts or certain thoughts that connect your work?
Definitely. And yeah, that's what I was starting to speak on. All of the work is connected. You know, each painting looks different, but if you know what to look for, you find these moments within them, certain things start to connect. There's also this idea of there's always a woman, a central figure in each composition. What surrounds her or what space that she's in is always changing. But the idea is that there's always motion and the motion is always moving forward. And then there's certain things that surround her, like I was saying, the scrotum flower and this idea of balance and power and her proximity to it surrounds her in different ways. And in some paintings, she's literally grasping at the scrotum flower. And in that space, she is in complete control. In other compositions, it's the flowers like floating around her. And in some ways, she's not aware of where she stands in that connection. There's also another important aspect. You'll start to discover these eyes, these really intense eyes that are surrounding the central figure. And then they're also accompanied with lips. So it's basically a hidden face. In some paintings, the face is more abstract. In other paintings, it's just super straightforward and, you know, just literally just staring at you. So that face is meant to represent the idea of a woman's intuition. So I see it as this ancestor, this woman from the past that is also within you that becomes a part of yourself. And a lot of times she is all knowing. She sees everything. So it's these different energies that accompany the central figure on her journey that become a protector or guide in some ways.
I love your passion or your motivation and focus on the powerful woman. And during an earlier conversation we had, I asked you about your last name because I found your name reads pretty and it sounds pretty. I like it. So let's talk about your last name.
Yeah, Chromati. So that name is actually a name that I started to use when I was 15. And it's actually a family name. It's not the name that I was born with. I have my father's last name, as most of us do. But this is a name from my mother's side of the family. And when I was in high school, well, starting in middle school, a lot of my cousins who identify as women started to take this name back and actually legally changing their name back to the original spelling, which is Chromati. It has an R in it. And I just thought that was so cool. I was like, I've never even heard of this name. Mm-hmm. And back then, like, MySpace was like really popular. And I was just like, okay, I need a name. Like, I need something else to go by. And so I asked my mom, I was like, can I use this name for my MySpace? And she was just like, I mean, you can, but I might want to use it. So you have to change the spelling. So that is the moment when I came up with the spelling. The original spelling is Cromatie, which is also fascinating because, you know, when you start to look up Black people coming from the Carolinas, it is a very popular name. Popular, yes, but also not so popular where you can start to find a connection. Like, you know, they might be your cousin, which is also like a whole different situation. But yeah, so I changed the name to Chromati, and I've been using that since I was 15, and it really just is grown with me, and to the point I don't even think about it anymore.
Well, I like it a lot. Good choice. Good editing.
Yeah,
good editing.
Thank you.
So back on the topic of art, how would you define your practice?
Yeah, I would definitely define the space that I'm exploring is within the realms of abstract figuration.
Mm-hmm. And how has it changed over the years?
I would say, it's changed in so many ways, but I would say the thing that I can really hold on to is that the idea of limitation is just literally not on the table anymore. And, with each piece and year after year, I just realized like there are no limitations. Years ago because I also come from a design background. I went to Pratt for graphic design. So clearly with that being at the forefront of my life for a while and me thinking that's what I was going to do, your brain definitely is structured in a particular way where, you're leaning on certain graphic elements to push the composition forward, which I'm so thankful for that. And that's in me, but I'm also thankful for the space that I eventually got to where I was just like, oh, if I'm going to paint, let me actually paint. Let me not move forward with paintings that are actually just mimicking what I can do on the computer. That's not the point. So once that really just clicked for me, I was just like, okay, now I can layer these colors to really make them pop in certain ways. I can add texture. Texture is so important to me now with my practice. Adding soft sculpture on some of the paintings, using glitter as a textural element. So it just clicked after a while, and not just on one day, but there's certain, different epiphanies. And I just think a few years ago was really just like, open yourself up, through the way your hand is actually moving on the surface, but also just mentally. Like I was still thinking as like a designer, I think, before. And once I turned that off, I was just like, oh, I don't have to rely on the composition that I started, yesterday. I can trust myself within the process, learn more about myself in the middle of the painting. And then eventually you build the painting up to a certain point, it just takes over. And that's the part when I talk to people and they're like, okay, well, how did you get here? The answer is not sure. I started it. I put in the elements that I can speak on, but also at a certain point that the work takes over and then you just become the vessel. The relationship changes. And that's the part that's, you cannot use words to explain that,
Yeah. I live vicariously through you artists. Just hearing your stories, it's wonderful. So how has COVID impacted your practice?
Yeah, COVID. I've been through so many lives this year. A lot of positive things have happened. A lot of firsts. I had my first institutional solo, which I'm really happy about. It was hard to get that work to just pick myself up to do the work. But also at the same time, if COVID was not here, whatever that show was going to be would have looked different. And I don't know how, but I know that I was making the work in real time, and those paintings will always be super special to me because it is all connected. I felt like, I'd started, clearly I'm known for using these super bright colors, glitter, texture, but the color Black has started to, be a really important color for me within the composition, and not in the use of skin tone, which we all have seen and loved in the past, and also still in the present is great. But I have prioritized using the color Black to actually rip apart the composition. So, in moments of using these like super ethereal, lighter color palettes and yellows, and then just literally like ripping everything apart with Black, to me is just a much larger conversation. The idea of lightness and darkness and deep thought is all intertwined there. And I was already doing that, but this year through COVID, I just feel like it was enhanced, and it came up in a slightly different way. And I'm really excited for the work that I'm making now and the work that I'm moving into the new year making. In that first half of next year, I'm excited to see what what comes out.
When you're creating work, do you think of who your audience is?
No, not really.
Yeah.
The audience is going to be whoever the audience is going to be. There's so many conversations. There's so many places that the work will be placed. The audience will survive long after I'm not here. I just know that there will be an audience, and that's good enough for me. The work really stops and ends as far as my process with my thoughts. Mm-hmm. And there's this switch that goes off, when I'm done. I separate emotionally. I don't know. And maybe that'll change in the future. But right now I do separate myself. And even when I see it up and installed, it's a different feeling. It's like, who made that? I don't know what that's about, but I am aware of the options of how the audience can react with the work. And also people are vocal with sharing certain things. It is always amazing when women specifically contact me, and when I can be open enough to receive that information. But, being like, I really see myself within this work and within this particular title, and it helped me through my divorce or whatever. And it becomes overwhelming because I do like to separate myself at that point. But also it's amazing to see how this can literally help someone. Mm-hmm. So the audience thing is an interesting one. I guess I'm still processing that.
So how did you feel seeing your outdoor banner that was commissioned by the Delaware Contemporary?
Yeah, that was great. Like I was saying earlier, I felt this for years that, my practice has been growing, and all these aspects of my life have been coming into one space. And I feel like with each opportunity for me to produce a clear thought, it becomes more immersive. It becomes closer and closer where I'm going and what I would like to see. So I feel like the Delaware Contemporary Project was great. I needed to see that. I mean, everybody needed to see it, but I needed to see it specifically. Just because it's like, by the time you see something as the audience, the artist is already like, okay, I am somewhere else mentally, thinking about the next thing. But that project for me, so the facade of the museum had 3 digitally made banners that was centered around the same context as the paintings. They're about 20 feet, which was just great to see something that large. I think that was necessary, but also realizing that, like, the role that everything plays. Like, I needed to see, like, okay, I have this digital work on the outside of the Delaware Contemporary, and just historically, the digital language presenting in that way, and thinking about advertising, it's accessible. We understand that. We know how to approach something that is super clear in that way. And I just felt like I could still talk about, I could still have my figure, the scrotum flowers, the ancestral beings, everything that's important to my composition, but I can also create something that feels clear. Well, I don't want to say clear, but straight to the point, and that there's also space for that. And I realized that I do have space for that, and that should be at the forefront of my practice. But it was nice to have that as what you see when you first walk in. And then as you enter the museum, you go into the gallery, and then you see the paintings, which do not look like the digital work. Same context, but it's more cryptic. It's meant to be, it's also inside of the space. And to me, it just made me realize I feel safer within that space. It just felt like a cocoon, like a womb. And this is where I can actually start to decipher and rip apart and expand on what I was building on the outside with the digital work. but now I have the space where I can fully let go and actually really, create a mind fuck within an intimate space. So it was, and then in the soundscape. So yeah, it was great. I'm so happy, and I will continue to build off of that format.
Yeah, it sounds like it was an enjoyable project.
Yeah.
So great. This has been a great conversation. You're so easy to talk to. What do you feel is your role as an artist?
I mean, I feel like my role as an artist is many different roles, but for me to question and to provide various answers, and the answers can also literally be thrown out. You know what I mean? Like some stick and some don't stick, and this just the act of questioning and creating options, questioning and starting conversations or continuing conversations. I just feel like that's what the role is. I'm not here to fix anything. I don't feel like any artist can fix something, but I do feel like you can bring certain things to the forefront. You can unravel things, you can dust things off, bring them back to the surface. And I think those conversations, and literally you might be the vessel that is actually, turning the switch on for a group of people or one person or even yourself. And in those conversations, as you pass it on to younger generations, that's the part that really, I do believe, can move things forward.
Yeah, when I attended the Pérez Museum event in early 2020 and saw your work in person, the one thing I can say about it is it makes you think.
Yeah.
You sit there, you look at it, you take it in, but it really does make you think.
Yeah, thank you. I really do prioritize creating different ways for someone to, or for myself and also, others, actually experiencing to basically have a variety of entry points into the work. It's not just one dimensional. It speaks to you over and over again in different forms. And that's what I require of myself. It's not for everyone, but it's a requirement for me.
Well, it's certainly working. and you pulled it off, because that's exactly what happened to me. I saw it, I stopped, and I'm like, oh my God, and start thinking about it. But this has been a wonderful conversation. I appreciate your time so much, Theresa, and thank you.
Yes, it was nice to talk, last talk of 2020. And the show that you're referring to at the Pérez was actually in February. And that literally feels like it did not happen this year, which is insane.
I know. I'm so glad I went. I'm so glad I went to that. I'm like, oh my God, that's the last time I was in Miami.
The last hurrah.
Exactly. But we'll have a lot of hurrahs in a minute.
I know.
This time next year, we're going to be celebrating life. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, you're right. Well, yes, Phyllis, this was great.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for listening to Cerebral Women Art Talks podcast. For additional content, please visit cerebralwomen.com and be sure to follow Cerebral Women on Instagram.